Out here, the land remembers everything. Every fence post driven by calloused hands. Every sunrise over wild grass. Every fight to keep what's yours. I didn't come to this ranch looking for trouble. I came to find peace. A life away from the noise. But in Oak Hollow, peace has a price. And sometimes, that price wears a name tag and a clipboard. They thought I'd roll over when they came for my land. They didn't know this ranch was built on something stronger than concrete legacy. And when you push a man far enough, don't be surprised when the quiet one is the last one standing. The Arizona sun hung low over the peaks, casting gold light across the dry grass and pine-covered ridges of Flagstaff. At the edge of a worn gravel road stood a man with sun-browned skin and calloused hands. A man who had spent more years in the dirt than behind any desk. Noah Granger, former Special Forces medic turned rancher, had finally come home for good. He hadn't planned it this way. When his father passed 6 months ago, Noah left behind a 20-year military career and a restless life overseas. The 40-acre ranch, tucked at the edge of the Coconino National Forest, was more than property. It was blood, bone, memory. As a boy, he had roamed this land, built tree forts in the aspens, and learned how to survive, not from books, but from watching his father handle both animals and people with unshakable calm. Noah hadn't even fully unpacked when she arrived. Sabrina Lowell, a polished woman in her late 40s, hair tight in a perfect bun, high heels, utterly impractical for the gravel path she stood on. She held a clipboard like it was a sword, and the HOA badge around her neck swung with a kind of arrogant authority. "Mr. Granger," she said, scanning her papers instead of looking him in the eye. "I'm with the Oak Hollow Estates Homeowners Association. We noticed your recent fence upgrades and, frankly, they're non-compliant." Noah blinked. "Non-compliant?" "Yes," she said, stepping forward and squinting at the gate. "You're within view of our northeast perimeter. Your fencing isn't uniform with neighborhood visual standards. Also, your barn color doesn't align with our desert-neutral palette." He took a deep breath. "This land isn't part of Oak Hollow." Her eyes snapped to his. "It borders us. You use the same access road. By adjacency, you're affecting property values." Noah crossed his arms. "Ma'am, this ranch predates your subdivision by about 60 years. My father had it written into the plat that our land isn't and never will be under HOA control." Sabrina's smile was ice. "Records can be amended." "No," Noah replied. "Not this one." She pulled a glossy pamphlet from her folder, full of flowery language about community harmony and shared expectations. Then she handed him a pre-filled application to voluntarily join the HOA. A gesture, she called it, to keep things civil. Noah handed it back without reading it. "Thanks, but no." For a moment, Sabrina's mask cracked. Something shifted in her face, disbelief, followed by contempt. "You'll find we don't take disregard lightly," she said softly. "We protect this neighborhood from disruption." Then she turned on her heel and walked back to her spotless white Lexus, heels clicking against gravel like a countdown. Noah didn't move. Rusty, his Australian shepherd, barked once from the porch as if to say, "That's the beginning of something." He was right. Within days, it started. An anonymous complaint was filed about aggressive livestock near a public access route. Animal control showed up unannounced. The inspector left apologetic after petting Rusty and seeing that Noah's few horses were well fed and enclosed properly. Then came a noise complaint, followed by a zoning inquiry, all dismissed. But the message was clear. She wasn't done. One morning, Noah found a red sticker pasted to his mailbox, subject to community review. It didn't come from the county. It came from the HOA office. He peeled it off, calmly, but noted the subtle escalation. A week later, as he was installing solar lights along his gate, he noticed fresh tire tracks near the side path where no one had reason to drive. He followed them and found a wooden stake hammered deep into his soil, painted orange, with a tiny HOA flag tied to the top. That night, for the first time in years, Noah didn't sleep. It wasn't just about land anymore. It was about ownership. And someone. Sabrina Lowell had decided that peace only existed when she was in control. Noah stood at the edge of his property line that night, the wind soft against his face, and made a quiet promise. You want a war, fine. But you just picked the wrong soldier. 2 weeks had passed since Sabrina Lowell first tried to coerce Noah Granger into joining the HOA. Since then, her tactics had grown bolder. But Noah, no stranger to pressure, stood his ground. Until the morning he discovered a letter taped to his workshop door. It was from a law firm, a formal cease and desist order, alleging that Noah's fencing, barn lighting, and visible solar panels violated community aesthetic ordinances. The wording was aggressive, and the signature at the bottom, Sabrina Lowell, HOA president, on behalf of concerned residents of Oak Hollow. Noah read it twice, then once more. Slower. His property wasn't under their jurisdiction, but that didn't stop them from trying to establish a paper trail. A tactic he recognized from military intel. Lay enough groundwork and people start to believe a lie is law. He drove straight to the county recorder's office. Paperwork folder under his arm. The same one his father had always kept in the safe. Inside, notarized deeds. Property maps from the 1950s. And the grandfathered agreement excluding their ranch from all municipal HOA rulings. The clerk, a young man with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his collar, scanned the documents and frowned. These are clean, he said. But the HOA submitted a map last week that overlays your eastern pasture into their visual corridor. If it's approved, they'll have authority over that zone. Noah's jaw tightened. They submitted a rezoning request, yes, and a public nuisance citation for unaesthetic perimeter infrastructure. Noah exhaled slowly. Did they mention that none of this is legal? The clerk glanced around, then leaned in. They're betting on you not fighting it. That's how these things go. If no one contests the overlay, they move fast. Noah left the office without a word. That night, the old veteran did what came naturally. He went tactical. He set up motion sensor floodlights, posted fresh private property signs, and linked trail cameras to a secure cloud feed. Rusty began sleeping on the porch again, ears alert, and Noah started keeping a logbook every visit, every complaint, every unmarked vehicle parked at the tree line. Then came the most outrageous move yet. 3 HOA members arrived at the gate in reflective vests, clipboard in hand, and a private contractor in tow. They claimed they were there to inspect the perimeter for community improvements, including a walking trail that, according to their updated map, crossed through the lower third of Noah's ranch. Step 1 foot past that gate and it's trespassing. Noah warned. Sabrina, of course, wasn't with them. She didn't need to be. She'd sent proxies. The contractor hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. We were told this was public right-of-way. Noah held up a laminated copy of his property survey. You were told wrong. The man backed away. The HOA members didn't. One of them, a smug retiree with a Bluetooth headset, smirked. This land affects our property values. It's in the community's interest that you cooperate. That's funny, Noah said. Because I didn't move here to increase your property value. I moved here to get away from people like you. They left, but not before taking dozens of photos. By the weekend, rumors were flying. Posts flooded Oak Hollow's private Facebook group. Claims that Noah was building an illegal scrapyard, that he kept exotic animals, that the sounds from his barn late at night were disturbing. And then came the kicker, a petition, signed by 46 residents, demanding a county review of unsafe conditions and structures on the Granger Ranch. Sabrina had turned it into a political campaign. Noah had expected pressure. He hadn't expected sabotage. That Monday morning, he awoke to find his front gate chained shut from the outside, padlocked with a bolt cutter-proof loop. Someone had also spray-painted the words, "Community Land," across the entrance in red. Rusty barked madly from the porch. Noah stared at the vandalism, fists clenched, and made a quiet decision: this ends in court, not at the fence line. He called Mara Bishop, a sharp, land-use attorney in Phoenix, known for dismantling predatory HOAs with surgical precision. Her first words after reviewing the documents were clear. "They're not trying to win. They're trying to bleed you out with bureaucracy. But lucky for you, I like a good fight." She filed a restraining order against the HOA's board that afternoon. The legal gloves were off. As night fell, Noah stood on his porch, watching the shadows move across the ridge. Behind him, Rusty lay curled at his feet. Beyond the gate, the suburban lights of Oak Hollow blinked in the distance, organized, uniform, soulless. The war wasn't just over land for Ame. It was about freedom, autonomy, and a man's right to live without a leash. He would fight, not just for his father's ranch, but for everyone tired of being told that peace must look like control. The courtroom was colder than Noah expected. Polished floors, harsh lighting, and rows of HOA supporters murmuring behind him like vultures awaiting a meal. Sabrina Lowell sat at the plaintiff's table in a crisp blazer and signature pearl necklace, radiating confidence until Mara Bishop entered, dressed in gray, calm as stone. Mara's presence silenced the room. Her eyes scanned Sabrina like she'd already won. Judge Holloway, an older woman with no tolerance for theatrics, called the case forward. Oak Hollow, HOA versus Noah Granger petition for jurisdictional overlay and community compliance enforcement. Mara stood. "We'll be challenging the legitimacy of this petition and presenting evidence of fraudulent conduct, trespassing, and harassment." The trial began. Sabrina's lawyer was polished, well-rehearsed. He presented HOA meeting minutes, petition signatures, and the infamous updated map showing the ranch's border now inside community zoning. He spoke of visual integrity, community cohesion, and property value depreciation. But it didn't hold, because Mara stood and calmly laid out their case like chess pieces on a board. Original deeds going back 70 years. Surveyor reports proving no boundary changes. Camera footage of HOA board members trespassing. Screenshots of social media posts smearing Noah's name. And the smoking gun, a forensic analysis of the updated map, proving it had been tampered with, hand-drawn overlays scanned and submitted under false pretense. Then came the bombshell. Mara called Mrs. Vera Long, a longtime Oak Hollow resident and former HOA board member, to the stand, visibly nervous. Vera admitted, under oath, that Sabrina had pressured her to sign the petition. She said if I didn't support her plan to take Noah's land, she'd have the board fine me over my unpainted deck. Gasps filled the room. Sabrina's lawyer went pale. But the final twist came when Mara submitted county communications obtained through a FOIA request. The HOA's zoning claim had never been approved. It was pending review. Yet Sabrina had acted as if it were law. Worse, she'd forged 2 county clerk initials on the notice sent to residents. Forgery, tampering, coercion. Judge Holloway leaned forward, voice steady but steel-edged. "Ms. Lowell, not only has this court determined you have no authority over Mr. Granger's property, but your actions display a disturbing pattern of abuse. You've weaponized bureaucracy to bully a man off land that is rightfully his." Sabrina tried to speak, but the judge raised a hand. "Silence. This isn't a debate, it's a ruling." She turned to the bailiff. "File this decision immediately. Oak Hollow HOA's petition is dismissed. And notify the county attorney's office. We're referring the matter for criminal investigation." Mara nodded once. Victorious but calm, Noah sat still, jaw clenched, a knot in his chest slowly unraveling, not because he'd won, but because, finally, the land he'd inherited was safe, his father's name protected, his future unchained. As the courtroom emptied, neighbors avoided his eyes, but a few approached, quiet, apologetic. One shook his hand. Another muttered, "Should have never gone this far." While outside, the Arizona sun warmed his skin. Mara joined him at the courthouse steps. "They'll keep barking, but they won't bite again." Noah nodded. "You ever need eggs, firewood, or hell, even a rescue horse, you know where to find me." She smiled. "Just promise not to build a neon rooster statue at the entrance." "No promises." They both laughed, and for the first time in months, the sound wasn't bitter. Back at the ranch, Rusty greeted him with a happy bark. The gate swung open freely. The paint still fresh. The scars would remain. But so would the land. So would the lesson. Stand your ground, even when they threaten to bury it.